everybody. How are you today? So today we're doing our panel on the women in technology. How are we trying to imagine what's possible, what's not possible, knowing that everything is possible, right? All our dreams are possible. So today I'm here with three extraordinary women that I'm going to let themselves present themselves. So we have Maddie Callas. She's the founder and CEO of Urban Innovation of City Possible in MasterCard. She comes from New York. Then we have Ines Abbo. She's from Palestine. And then we have Johanna. So she's from Barcelona.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to come on, ladies, please present yourselves and tell us all the wonderful things you do.
Thank you so much. Maddie Callas, thank you all for coming. Third day, 10 a.m. You guys are like the warriors of the conference. I know it's a long experience. I have the pleasure of working for MasterCard on the City Possible network. So City Possible, which is the space we're in today, brings together city leaders from around the world to talk about how they use technology to serve their communities. And from those conversations, how can we amplify what's being done well so that city leaders can learn from each other and really address what's being done in other communities and almost copy it in theirs so that we can all go further together. From those conversations as well, we also surface opportunities for co-creations with cities in the design process. So really trying to shift the way public and private sector do business. Through the work, I've met so many amazing people. And one of the things I'm also proud to be a part of is a group called Women in Smart Cities Globally. So we try and amplify leadership and diversity and try and lift each other up so that we all have a platform to reach our audiences and help events plan speakers so that there's gender diversity and different backgrounds on panels that we always want to avoid the mantle. So yeah, excited to be part of the conversation today.
Thank you. Ines.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session. Thanks for having us on board this morning. So my name is Ines. I am based in London, and I have the pleasure of running a company called H2Go Power. It's an energy storage company. We store energy in the form of hydrogen because it's a zero-emission solution that could provide continuous power at low cost, harnessing the power from the sun and the wind. And if we keep scaling solutions like that, I really believe that we not only are going to get to a place where we can achieve smart cities, but also maybe smart villages in multiple places around the world, where we don't have infrastructure, we don't have access to power, and importantly, we don't have access to clean energy. That is extremely important because we really need to look at our carbon footprint, and everything we do in terms of activities involve energy. If we solve the problem of having access to energy and make it clean and reduce the carbon footprint in that area, and at the same time get the cost structure right, we become active users of clean energy, and that is a lot of progress towards climate change and what we really actively need to be doing to make sure that we live on this planet for as long as possible. So I'm actively working on the technology development. The whole company started from my PhD 5 years ago at Cambridge University in the UK. And since then, we've been growing the team and continuing the progress on building the technology and implementing it.
Thank you. Impressive.
Thank you.
Johanna.
Yes, I'm Johanna. I'm from Barcelona. Now I'm working in the government of Catalonia as a general director, and I'm in charge on policies related to having more women in the ICT sector. It's a sector that is growing a lot in Catalonia and in Europe and around the world. But there are no women in this sector, so we think that we need to work, especially on that. And we are developing a plan called Dona TIC. It's a Women in ICT plan, who is based in 4 axes. I will explain later if you want. And one of them is to have more women, more entrepreneurial women in this sector, because we think that companies made by women think like women and act like women. So we have to begin working with them in this case.
Oh, great. So please tell us more about what are the actual programs that are you doing to try and get more women in technology?
Yeah, as I said before, we have this Donatic or this Women in ICT project. It's focused on in 4 strategic lines. The first one is to make more attractive technology for women, because we've detected that for young girls, the technology is not, it's not attractive. They don't like. We don't know why, and we should work with them when they are they are about 10 or 11 years old. So we need to make more attractive the technology for them. The second line is.
Sorry, how do you do that? So you
We
go
go
out
to
to
the schools,
and you do an awareness program. Wow.
People like them bring to the schools women,
yes,
and they talk and they explain their experiences, because we want that these girls having references.
Yes, they need role models, right?
Yeah, role model, exactly.
Yeah, you can't be what you can't see.
Yeah, because we only have male role model. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and as a role model we have Marie Curie. It's all women in black and white, with little glasses, so we need to work on that. This is the second line, is to visualize this talent, this feminine talent. The second line is to work on keep citizen training in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because we think that's important for everyone to know what's STEM and how to use technology. And the fourth line is to focus in this promotion of companies made by women, or how to help entrepreneurial ideas to become a company.
Great, thank you. So, you're all women here. Have you had challenges working in a male environment? Is it a male environment that you work in? What is the percentage? What does it look like where you work in your workspace today? And what are the challenges that you are facing or that you have faced in your workspace?
Go ahead.
I'd say I'm very fortunate. My team is very balanced. At MasterCard overall, it's a great place to work. And before I was there, I was at nonprofits, which are heavily female dominated, and like B Corps, so social enterprises. And I thought I would never work for a company or a corporation, and I'm very blessed and happy to be a part of it. I'd say that there are challenges as you kind of grow up within a company and looking to find mentors and people that work like you and want to help you. We have a women's leadership network, so tapping into that, I've been able to really find what I would call a career advisory board. So discuss, what's the next thing I'm doing? How can I position myself, practicing difficult conversations? Now, when I've gone out to meet different cities around the world, which can mean all types of different cultures, I mean, I've definitely been asked to take the notes or get the coffee and not realize that I was actually a participant in the meeting. I mean, how many of you has that happened to? That's quite.
When I go with my assistant, they ask if I'm the assistant of my assistant, and I say, no, I'm the boss. But they don't know. They don't believe that, because it's male sector.
Male sector. And you?
So I'd like to share my experience here. There are a few pillars to answering this question. First challenge is actually recruiting women. So I'm the only woman in my team, although I run the team, but because we recruit highly talented people with PhDs in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, and there aren't many in the pool to choose from. So trying to recruit women with this technical talent is not easy, because there aren't many out there, and I think this is a problem that's going to take years to solve. And as much
about the pipeline, right?
And as much as I would love to increase the number of women in the team, it's not very easy to do that. And at the same time, small companies don't have the luxury of recruiting people who are not extremely suitable for the role, because we're under pressure all the time to deliver on targets and tasks, and we don't have a lot of possibilities to take untrained people and train them on the job, because that process is costly and it takes time. So number one challenge is actually recruiting women. Because throughout my studies and career, it's a very technical, and the energy industry is not really female, is not really balanced in terms of diversity. So at the beginning, when I was younger, it was difficult to sit on the table with the CEOs and say, we're raising this amount of money. This is the project that we're going to do. Can you take us seriously? That was a challenge. It's getting better, but it's very important also to mention, since we're talking about challenge, the opportunities. I think because I was a woman in an environment where there aren't many women, my biggest supporters so far were men, because they recognize that actually there aren't many women and we need more of that. So I think we got a huge amount of support because of the fact that we were trying to do something very difficult, rare, and I was the person who was leading that was a woman. So it's very important when we don't have women role model to work with what you have. If it's men, then we really need to leverage that.
Okay. And how do you think we could go by to try and bridge this gender gap then? Is it installing quotas, for instance, or not? What do you think?
I think it's the last solution for me.
Yeah.
I think we need to do that when it's just really necessary, but I think that we must be there because we have talent and we know we have acknowledgement, and not because we are women. I think it's just the last option for me. In politicians, for example, it's mandatory to do that, but there are a lot of women prepared to be politicians, but not on the STEM because there are no women. So it doesn't mean that the woman who has studied engineering it's good, or should be good. So I think for me it's the last option. It should be when there are no women available, but I prefer to win the job because I'm capable to do that.
So Maggie, Ines just said that she thought that there were less women skilled in a very high position, technical position. Do you think it's really because, and I think the figures also show that we do have less women that are pursuing STEM career and studies, but don't you also think that perhaps it's because for a woman to apply to a job, they say that unless they have all the qualifications, 100% qualifications, they will apply, as compared to men, if they have like half of the qualifications, that yes, I am the best person suitable for that. So what do you think, how important are the soft skills and about, personal self-assurance and the imposter syndrome? How does it play a role in getting more women in this sector?
I think those definitely apply. I think there's also a level of, in the conversation, like you're talking about very, PhDs, like those can be difficult to recruit. And I think by starting the conversation about STEM, at MasterCard we have a program called Girls for Tech that teaches young women, I think as low as 12 to about 18, how to code, and we run programs around the world with them, and it can be a short afternoon experience or a full course. By just getting that information more out there and available, you're starting to change the stigma around it. Yeah. And it is a huge cultural shift that will take possibly generations to go into full effect. I think in the workplace now, and I even see this in myself, I will look at a job description and think, do I meet 90% of the criteria? No, I don't apply. Yeah. There's got to be someone better. Yeah. And it seems really silly and obvious, but if you don't ask or you don't try, you're never going to get there. And I can also be my own worst enemy in my career. I don't really like talking about what I do or what I achieve. I would much rather take a back seat and say, oh my gosh, thank you, it's the amazing team, which there's an appropriate place for. But when it comes time for your review and your job, you really have to step up and own it and be like, these were my deliverables. But that makes me uncomfortable for sure. Yeah. But without being, practicing and kind of leaning into a network, and this idea, I learned about it in our Women's Leadership Network, of a career advisory board, of having about 4 or 5 people you can go to that maybe are in your company or your job, or just trusted friends and mentors you've met along the way for guidance, has been extremely helpful to me and helped me prepare for something that was challenging. And as well, this is somewhat silly, but I actually find a lot of inspiration from following women whose careers I respect on Instagram. Like, there's this, does anyone know Bazuma St. John? She's the CMO of Endeavor. But she is so amazing and out there and like on stages all across the world all the time, lifting other women up and talking about them. And it's not like I've ever met her, but just seeing her on Instagram and her story, I'm like, oh, she can do that. Like, she's bold in her style choices and her words. Like, you know, it makes me think I can too. Yeah.
Yeah, the importance of role model once again, right? You can't be it if you can't see it. So that's so important. So we talked about what you've done in the companies, in the entrepreneurship. Well, what do you think policies, how can the policies in Europe or in the Mediterranean area, what can it be done for us to increase the number of students, because we have to do something about the pipeline in the first place, about getting more women in the tech fields for the study, in the tech jobs, and how to keep them in the tech jobs, because other statistics say that the fallout of women that go into these tech jobs are much higher than men. Why do you think that?
I think we should work on girls from 10 to 12 years old. For me, 14, it's too late because they...
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Well, because they've changed their mind. I don't know, I think we have to, or maybe before at 7, 8 years old, because at 12 they choose another way, another option, and it's very late for them, I think so. And I think that we should make technology more, knowing why for its use, the technology, why we use technology, for doing what, which is for the society, who uses technology and for what, no? Because for women it's important to know what I'm doing that. We need to know, the results of what we are doing, not as men, I think. So if, for example, and why in medicine there are so women, or in biotech, because the results has something on the society. And I think that we need to sell more the technology careers to the society. I think so.
And what about unconscious bias in all of this? Do you think it is one of the big causes why we have so many, perhaps, girls falling out in teenage years? Do you think it's because of their perception, or do you think it's more about their environment, how their parents or how their teachers or how society in general perceives these things? What do you think, Ines?
So I'd like just to tap into your earlier question and maybe answer this one as well.
Yeah, please, sorry.
Just by saying that you mentioned the Mediterranean or Europe. Every country works in a very different way. So you really need to look at the fabric of every society and where the limitations are. In some societies, you just don't have, the perception of women engineers is just, they don't want to be the minority. It's not fun, right? And I think if we want to challenge that and change that, we really need to look at how people are thinking, and the policies should match what works in every society. So in the UK, for example, 12% of the engineers are women. It's 12% in a country that is considered, perceived as progressive as the UK. Yes. I think it's an awful number in 2019. And I think the way to change it is to see what the jobs of the future are going to look like, what interests girls in school, and try and see how we can bridge that. So role models is very important, but if there aren't many, what are we doing? We need to be working with something else to create them, and we have to acknowledge that process is gonna take some time. It's not a very quick one. So I think really policies should look at the society, how it works, what are the perceptions, and try and tackle them based on where you are.
Yeah.
Can I add to that original question as well? Not about the gender bias. Remind me the question before. Do you remember?
About the policies? What policies can be done?
And burnout. You talked about burnout. I think when you were speaking, I think one of the reasons sometimes coming from the U.S. and I live in New York City, that tech can be such a different career. And I think it's important to note, too, there are different roles within tech. I am not a technologist nor an engineer, but I am good at communicating and helping it relate to people and building partnerships and relationships. But with the industry being very much 24/7, go, 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 you're never disconnected. Like that's hard to bring in the work-life balance. And I think as females, if we want to start families and do all these things, like that just becomes delicate, and the industry is so demanding on your time all the time to really set up, your own boundaries, because we always want to pick up, let's say maybe the emotional labor as well of a workplace and a team. It becomes hard to sustain.
So, do you think that maybe technology could, on the contrary, help women to be able to have a more adapt their time to work from home or do remote work or something like that, so that they can, start a family? Or is it something that's specific to tech, or do you think it's in general in all different jobs as well?
I mean, I think that the whole workplace is evolving. I think where it comes specific into the tech industry is just we're connected all the time, and it's like I work in tech. Who am I without my phone in my hand? But I think, at MasterCard and City Possible, we talk a lot about how to make tech work for people. It's not maybe that the app or the technology doesn't exist. It's maybe the conversations that need to happen before you lean into the technology, which are hard and challenging, should take place.
I think technology must help women, but also men to work because
but they already
this
have
is
a lot of men, right?
It's a mistake to think like that.
Of course.
For women and for men. And we should talk about also the maternity, because I think it's an important thing to know how I'm mother of 4, and for me it hasn't been a problem to be mother, and I'm proud of that. So but because my husband, he's like me. He's taking care of the children like me. So I think we have to go by this way, because if not, it's impossible.
Yeah. Figures show that since the 1980s or even earlier, every year there are less and less women taking up studies in STEM and working in STEM. And on the contrary, we would think that because society is evolving, the number should be going up. However, it's going down. Do you have an explanation for that?
I said before, because I think that there are no reference roles, and because we want to know why the technology is used, why we do that. When I say we, I said women or girls. I think that we need to know that the technology has some applicability, some things. Okay, it's just not to program or to think about something. It's for doing things and good things, usually. So we have to explain that. I think it's the point.
Inés, because you're a doctor, right? How would you explain, they say that perhaps 70%, I don't know exactly the numbers, of the jobs in 2030, they don't exist yet. How can we encourage girls to take on jobs that don't exist yet? How can we encourage them? How would you go about?
Look at the pipeline and look at where it's leaking from.
Yeah.
Because there is definitely a sufficient number of girls and women who go ahead and study STEM. What happens after undergrad, after school, after undergrad, after PhD, what they do. And if women actually opt out of a career line that is progressive because of family, we really need to find ways to try and bring them back in the pipeline, and policies that could help mothers. If this is the number one problem, that women actually leave the workforce. Policies around that, like how we can bring childcare closer to their work, so they can stay at work and be effective mothers. I don't think, in the UK at least, we don't have enough of that, and we definitely benefit from more of that. I think policies like that would encourage women to go back to work, sharing maternity with the father, and train men to be more involved in the process.
And having paternity leave, right? What's the paternity leave in the UK like? Do they encourage fathers to take off some time as well?
Maybe 10 days.
10 days.
Yeah. And also raising children shouldn't be only like a mother responsibility. It should be mothers and father responsibilities, and training men to be more involved. I think that is very effective. And also, like my mother generation, in her generation, they had their kids when in their 20s. I think to build a solid career where you make a lot of progress and make it to the top, it takes time. So I think we should communicate to women that it's fine to not have kids in your 20s because you focused on getting training or a PhD in something. Women can have children when they are in their 30s, and if that is something that could help women get further in their technical training, then let's do it.
I think, can I add on how to prepare women for jobs that aren't necessarily there yet? In a personal capacity, I also serve on the alumni relations board of my undergrad alma mater. It's called Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee, a small liberal arts school. For those who aren't as familiar with liberal arts curriculum, it's very focused on reading, writing, learning to think. I did not graduate my undergrad with a degree that was more practical per se or prepared me for a job. I studied Latin American studies and Spanish. I could write, I could research, I could produce thoughts, and it made me a very curious individual. And I think that instilling this curiosity and willingness to learn for your life, I mean, I think each individual now will have at least 7 careers. Like, you're already changing so much. How can you adapt to what's being taught to you, or what's needed is the skill that's most important? I was at Rhodes last week for board meetings, and I always love going back and interacting with current students. A young woman studying business was like, I've done the internship at one of the big 4 consulting firms. Now I think I'm going to go straight into grad school, and then I'm going to get a master's in data analytics next year. And I was like, whoa, take a breath. Like, what do you really want to do? Like, to have some time to be a little curious, explore. And she's like, but data's the future. And I was like, yeah, but there's a lot of other things too. Or you can take a data analytics class and maybe apply that. And I was talking about that with someone from our team at MasterCard that was here. That's one of our executives in cyber intelligence or cybersecurity. And he was talking about a training program in which he was teaching recent grads skills in the cyberspace. And some of those that really excelled were just people that had studied hospitality, but that innate kind of willingness to learn and adopt a new skill is what made them successful in the role. And I think that, if you want to study even dance or it's something not necessarily STEM related, if you have the willingness to learn that when the time comes, then that's how you prepare for a job that doesn't exist.
Oh, great. I love this creativity kind of approach together with technology. And I think that's one of the maybe challenges as well. It's not only focus on the technology, but also the creativity, because we can only have innovation if you put the both together, right?
Yeah, we are talking about STEM, but also STEAM. So this is the, STEM or STEAM, but I think the STEAM is the evolution for STEM, for me. But I don't know what people think. But for me, it's to do things with creativity, innovation, different ways of doing things, open mind. And I think it's necessary for increasing women in this sector is to write the A on the STEM.
And the A can also make things like arts more accessible to boys and all kids. Like it takes away this is what a girl does and this is what I do because I'm a boy. Yeah.
So should there be like a real change, profound change in high school? Something like that? Yes.
I think so.
And also we are only training the students, but also the teachers, right? To try and integrate both girls and boys.
Well, there's a problem also on the teachers. Yes. I don't know in the rest of the world, but in Europe, in the North Europe, teachers, they are not prepared on STEM. So how can they teach to their pupils about STEM? So we need to act also in teachers because they don't have the training. So this is a problem for them also, and we need to act on this from the governments also. They need to be training all the time, because if not, they are back. So I think it's important also to
And
train
they have
teachers.
big influence on the students, right?
Yeah,
So they're going to
sure.
be able to guide girls
Yeah.
or boys who take that or that activity,
Yeah.
you know? True. One of the other challenges we face today, especially in the entrepreneurship business for women, are investments. Today, there are less than 3% of investment funds go to startup led by women. How come? How can that be? It's like 2.6%. I know in some countries it differs. I know that in the Netherlands it's maybe less than 2%. It's 1.7%. How come? What can we do about it? What do you think?
That is very true. I think when women pitch for funding or when they decide how much money they want to raise, they come from a very risk-averse place, thinking that maybe I can't raise enough money. Or when they try and convince investors about how much money they need to put into the business, they don't come across as bold and as aggressive and as they are on the risk-averse side. And I think investors are biased and are used to the masculine style of pitching for funding, and maybe that really affects the decision making. And even when you have women, their approach towards fundraising is more on the risk-averse side, is more on the I need to be cautious, I need to be sure, I need to know exactly what I'm putting the dollar in this company. And that sometimes is a very good approach, but it could work against you when you're pitching to investors that are used to a very aggressive style of, we're going to change the world, we're going to break the record. Women don't pitch this way, and maybe this is like one of the reasons. And there's quite a lot of work to be done on that, on retraining investors, on looking for value and not looking for style when the entrepreneur is coming to raise money. And I really hope that we can change that, because women are very capable of building valuable businesses. And if I may add one more statistic to your note, apparently a friend recently told me that women don't have, or statistically, women grow small businesses and sell them. They don't go all the way to build unicorns. That's why if we want to think about more than $1 billion businesses out there, we cannot spot many of them that were founded and run by a woman. And maybe it goes back to the, I'm not too sure, I want to be risk averse, I want to be, so maybe that statistic as well can be taken into account when we think about how we pitch to investors and why they make choices based on style.
Yeah, I love what you said. You know, we have to also train investors to focus on the value and not style. I love that. Thank you.
I think we have to answer on three pillars. The first one is what can women founders do to increase their options? Show ambition, you said before, understand the terms, ask things without fear of anything, and keep trying again and again and again. So never fall. And then on the investor side, I think that we need to increase female investors also, because some businesses are for women, so business investors can do better than men investors if this is a project or not viable project. And then for the investors, write the questions that they will ask to an entrepreneur, and if they have a woman in front, ask the same questions, not changing the question if there is woman or men. And then for society, I think we have to work also in keep pushing for increasing female founders, and also in buy products made by women. We need to buy products and solutions made by women, because these companies should go growing up. Okay.
I think, Ines, you brought up a couple good points about how oftentimes women will sell sooner. There are so many small businesses and micro merchants that are female run, especially whether they just see a need in their community or it's a opportunity to support their family by earning money. At MasterCard, we work a lot around the world helping small businesses gain access to credit. We launched a platform in Kenya called Jazzaduka that enables a store owner to use their purchase history and order history from their suppliers to gain constant access. So oftentimes what the pain point was is, imagine going to like your store down the street, and not like a pharmacy, like a little hole in the wall type situation, and say you needed to buy diapers, soap, and laundry detergent. They had soap, they had half a bag of diapers, and no laundry detergent. And oftentimes what happens then is, when the supplier has come, the delivery truck, they only have what's in cash to get what's on the truck. So if you don't have a lot of flow, which is also then compounded by you don't have what your customers need, then you're not able to help the community. So by digitizing and understanding what they had bought and what was going out, that enabled them to say, okay, I need this many boxes of diapers, soap, and laundry detergent. And I think there's now over 12,000 merchants on the platform. 50 to 60% are female-owned. And there's so many statistics about how when you empower a woman financially to run her own business, families benefit, societies and communities benefit. The money is more likely to go towards household supplies and education, and it really starts to lift up even the economy at a national level.
Thank you. So, one last question before we open into the audience. I'm sure that you have lots of questions to ask our lovely ladies. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything in society, in the ways, what would it be? Only one thing to make this gender gap reduce, right? What would you do, Maggie? One thing. You could do anything.
I get it first?
Yeah.
I think I would make it so that the soft skills, which we're naturally good at as females, like the tapping into people's emotions, conversations, are not seen as weaknesses, but as strengths.
Thank you. Ines?
I'd say start from the babies, the baby woman, the baby version of woman, and the messaging towards, you're not a princess, you're a capable human being, you can be productive, let's play with bridges and fast cars. I think getting into that, getting little girls into that mentality early on, and I don't think it should be a magic wand. It should be like a robust thing we implement and start very soon.
Be a laser.
Yeah, and really, I really think that getting into that like the earliest we can could really help us narrow the gap.
For being different from them, maybe I will work on boys and men, telling them that we are as good as them, as brave as them. We are not princess, and we can do things like them. So I think I will work with them, because if we make the war alone, we won't win.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. So let's open up for questions. I'm sure, yes. So we only have one microphone. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Hello, I'm Suzy El-Ghanedi, Deputy Chief Editor of Al-Ahram. It's a newspaper in Egypt, the first newspaper in Egypt. And my question is, as Ines mentioned actually, that it's not the point of being educated to be an engineer or working in high tech for women, because it's only 12% in England, engineering. So this is a striking thing. I'm really struck about it. But the point is, how can we help the women to go more in tech? First of all, I think we need to encourage organizations to help retrained ladies after being working as a housewife for 2 years, for instance, trying to keep their babies, and then they want to go back and work. They don't find any opportunities because the competition is very high. So they need to be more retrained again and then find them a job. This is the first thing. And the second thing is to encourage the organizations and the companies to actually hire a certain percentage of women if they are the same criteria as men, and encourage them by, for instance, decreasing the taxes for them or something. We need, I think, a certain way of thinking, because if the government doesn't have laws for that, then we will be speaking and having more panels all the time speaking about women in tech. with no step forwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. A question, please. Someone?
I think just like one comment on that, on how to move forward, because your points are extremely valid, is you have to give back. Like, you have to be available for people coming up in your organization or your schools you've been to. The mentoring and the networking, like, if we don't do that, then we'll still be having the same conversation in 2030. So just, take it upon yourself. If somebody's helped you, lift someone else up too.
Yeah, go to schools.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Some questions? I would like to have a question from a man. What are your views? We talk about women in tech, so you're here because it interests you somehow. What do you think? What would you like to know? Yeah.
So I'll give it a try. Well, I like the comment about the presenting culture in terms of pitches. You said that, okay, women don't succeed in pitches because they are more cautious and less loud, outspoken. This app is going to change the world. Now, of course, there's two ways to change it. You could change the business culture and saying, okay, you have to understand that they present differently than men, or women can also present differently. So what's the solution? Or is it halfway in between both of them? In the sense that also women have to learn to be louder and more aggressive in terms of pitching.
Yeah, for sure. It has to be progress from both sides. The question is, where do you start? If you have really valuable businesses that are not being messaged at investors properly, do you miss on the opportunity of growing a business like that, or do you actually try and look beyond the aggressive style and look at the value in the business as a first step? And I guess once that mentality changes, then maybe women as well will gain the momentum and the confidence needed to change their style, and that would be progress on both sides.
But I'm happy today because there are too many men today here. When we talk about that, there's always women on the auditorium. And today there are a lot of men, so thank you for coming, because it's a thing that we have to work together.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, we have one question.
The microphone.
Yes, a microphone here. I think it's going to... Mm-hmm.
I don't agree that women should change how they behave. That's a great mistake. We should not masculinize ourselves to get into directives or whatever. I think that's a great mistake, because then it hurts other women that need to not be themselves. So being more competitive, more aggressive, it's not what a woman is. And we should benefit from the diversity that we can bring to business and to society. That's one thing. But what I wanted to say is that being women, the ones that are coming to all these events, the best thing we can do is, if we have a husband or a partner or a boyfriend or a brother who is in a directive, most of us know someone, just ask them about the women in their teams and what they are doing with them. Because that's the best thing I've done with my ex-husband. Because he was like, yeah, he was like coming home all the time like, oh my God, this fucking guy, well, Maria will solve it for me, or Anna will solve it for me. And I said, when do you take Maria and Anna to the Comité de Dirección? Oh, I don't know, because, when they come, they ask too many questions, and then they put people in difficult situations, and then the other guys don't like that, so I don't take them. And I said, oh, you don't take them? And then what about promotion? Oh, well, yes. They don't have visibility, so I'm not going to promote them this year. And it's like 1 year and another year. But when the ones that were like solving his big deal problems were the same. And then she came one day and said, oh, Maria, she's found another job. She's left because she told me that she's leaving in 15 days. And you're not going to do anything? Well, she's fed up, and it's your fault, I mean. And having this kind of conversations with our male partners, when they know how difficult it has been for us to be where we are, it's, I think, the best thing we can do, because they go outside and they understand that this is difficult, but they don't do the fucking shit they need to do. So having difficult conversations when they come to dinner in front of your kids, that's the best thing we can do to take them out of their comfort zone, I believe, because they can do it. It's just a matter that sometimes, for example, my ex-husband, he said, but I don't want to be the one that is different. I don't want to break the rules. I don't want to have difficult times in the board of directors where there are 15 guys, and it's me that changes this, because I have so many other troubles in my head. No, the bonus, the whatever, the sales, and the... But I think this is very important, and it's what our generation can do. And a big advice for men, there's a big epidemic of women who are leaving their husbands because of this. I'm from my age. I have 5 kids, and I love my ex-husband, and I've left him because we're sort of going, and I thought I was the only one, and last 3 years I found lots of women like me, which have 3, 4 kids, they have a good job, they have opportunities, and they love their husband, and they've not left their husband because they're fucking someone else, and they're living because they don't feel they are on the same road to be recovering our lives, you know? I don't know if I'm explaining what I'm saying, but you sort of retire of your work when you have kids, especially if you have a lot of them, even if you keep working, and when you come to an age and you start doing things again, they look at you and say, oh, you're not a working mother anymore. Oh, now you're an entrepreneur, or now you're traveling a lot. And, yes, you've been traveling for 20 years, while I was with 5 kids in a consultancy company, working all around the clock, because I could not leave. And now I can leave, and you don't like it. So it's good that you don't go back home and be happy because you take care of this. Maybe your wife can live in a while, because there's lots of women doing this now.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for this inspiring end of conclusion for our panel. So if you have 5 kids and if you have children, you can leave your husband. That's also what I did a couple of years ago.
I will do that.
12 years ago, I changed my life. I went into tech. I left my husband. So that's one of the possibilities, right? That could be a policy we could try and install. Anyway, on this note, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. We will stay here a couple of minutes later.
We have another question.
It's just that I don't know, do we still have time? If you have time for our last one, or are we done? Sorry? Yes, can we? For me, it's good. It just, the boss tells me, can we do one last question or not? Yes? 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Thank you. So just here very quickly, and then you, right? Sorry, yes.
I come from 2 industries that are most intense and mostly controlled by men. Banking and finance, and the other one is technology. On the practical side of things, the mentor who's helped me the most all through my career was a man. I had the support of my brothers and my dad, who were also men. The question is, how do you think, what can we do, what can be done in order to engage men more? Have their support. Instead of having them on the other side, how can we have them part of all the activities that we actually run? I would have loved to see men sitting on our panels. I would have loved to see men moderating this. What can we do? What should be done in order to actually use their capabilities to our best interest, to achieve our goals? Thank you.
Thank you. So someone wants to answer that?
They are not silly, so they know that as diverse as is a company, it's a better company. And diversity is also because made by women and different gender, different color, different religious. So they are not silly, so they need to know that as diverse as his company or the company where they work, it will be a better company. So it's just explain him. I think I prefer to think like that.
Yeah. And if I can also add, maybe for next time we come to our Women in Tech panel, please bring an ally. Every woman come with a man,
Yeah.
right? Because we are all convinced that we need more women in tech. Now we have to convince the men that we need more women in tech. And we can't convince them if they're not here, if they don't listen to us, right? So
Don't
please.
divorce them, bring him on.
Yes.
Exactly.
So last question here. Can we have the mic? I will bring mine. Bring mine.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sigal. I'm a city councillor from Tel Aviv, Israel. And I'm asking from all the women, don't be afraid. Try, go, and do it. Don't be afraid to get to the technology. Don't be afraid to go to the political. You have a daughter, speak with her. This is my daughter. I convinced her to come from Israel to think what to learn, what to go, what to glow. Because if we don't teach the young people, nothing is going to be changed. I think in this event, there is just 10% women, and it have to change. It have to, and we have to do something about it. So please tell, if you are working with a company, that it must to be half women, half men. You're gonna bring out it. Everybody have to go, and I want you to, if you want to say, what do you recommend to women to learn to succeed in technology? If you have something to suggest for the young people.
Maggie?
Oh man, I think I'd go back just to learn how to be curious, so you're a lifelong learner. That way you could learn science, math, engineering, whatever you needed, if you have the process ingrained.
And maybe really link it to passion, something they really like to do and they're passionate about, right? If we start having conversations beyond the Barbie doll and the pink stuff with little girls and try and raise their curiosity about, like, you know, how you build an iPhone, or really like the biggest achievements around us are engineering products, right? So I don't think there are a shortage of things that we could make little girls curious with, and maybe tap into passion and make them more curious.
And if I could just, the last note, we finish, that, you know, parents, we teach our, in society, we teach our girls to be perfect, and we teach our boys to be brave, right?
Yeah.
So let's teach our girls to be brave too, you know, get away your fears, be curious and be brave. So with this, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you for my panelists. And we are around here to chat if you want to. Thank you.